3, 2, 1.
Yo, 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 what's up, everyone? This is Vicente.
And this is Izzy.
And welcome back to the Ivy Podcast episode. And ladies and gentlemen, or however you want to describe yourselves these days. So, we got to go see Scream 6. And right off the bat, let me just say, holy crap. Izzy, like, you got to say something.
It was wild. Let me just tell you that.
Yeah, like, let's get this out of the way. Me and Izzy did not watch a trailer for this movie whatsoever. We wanted to go in blindly just because we feel like a lot of trailers today spoil what's in the movie.
Yeah, but it was definitely worth the wait, though. It was surprising.
Yeah, so after we record this episode, we're going to go watch the trailers and see what we missed out on and see if it spoiled the movie a little bit. Now, I was going to get off the bat. This movie was way better than Scream 5 in my opinion.
Yeah, I would... There's, other than a few things, it's a really good step up from the 5th movie.
Yeah, like, when we get into the positives, y'all are going to know. And I'm just going to get this out of the way, too. The New York setting was the best thing this franchise could have done. It's amazing how a simple franchise like Scream just has a simple premise. Killer calls you and threatens to kill you. But it's also cool about how, even though it stays the same, it also does different things and take risks.
Yeah, they played off this new setting so well. You got to see so many different things happen in the chase scenes and everything. It was really good.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do for Scream 7, which this movie does open a certain storyline for Scream 7, in my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. But you guys aren't here for that. Let's get into our positives. And for the first time, we'll talk about our mixed feelings, and then we'll get to our negatives.
Yep.
So, Izzy, you ready to get this show going?
I'm ready to go.
All right, let's get it going. All right, so for our first positive, the opening scene. Now, the opening scene starts off with the up-and-coming actress, Samara Weaving. She's known for Ready or Not, which is a horror movie me and Izzy have recommended to you guys.
It was such a good movie, Ready or Not. Anyways, but the opening scene, oh my god. When you first watched it, you literally would be so confused.
Yeah, like, I was all like, no way they revealed who the killer was. Because they reveal that there is a cult, somewhat of a cult out there.
Uh-huh.
And so we get our first character, so-and-so killer, by the name of Jason, who's an homage to Jason Voorhees, because you get it. Jason was in Manhattan at one point in his franchise in the Friday the 13th, but that's a story for another day. And so it's revealed that he's a quote-unquote killer, and that him and his friend Greg are targeting Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Chad. But this is where it gets interesting. He takes off the mask, and you're all like, okay, so they're going to reveal one killer but not show the other one?
Yeah.
And he gets back to his apartment, and he gets a call from Ghostface.
Yeah. And then from there, they play a little game on the phone, and then he opens up the fridge, and oh my god.
And he sees his quote-unquote Ghostface partner for continuing Richie's film from Scream 5 in the fridge, beheaded and gutted, and I'm like, what the hell? And then the new Ghostface killer comes out of nowhere and kills Jason.
Yep. And
Jason tries to say, but what about Richie's movie? And Ghostface says, I don't give a F about the movie, and just kills him. And I think this opening scene was making fun of a theory that people wanted, or a certain story that fans have wanted, where you have two Ghostface killers going against each other, but I don't think it could ever work out in the film.
Yeah, I was one of those people who wanted it because I think it'd be interesting to see on screen. But now as I think about it, I just don't think it would work out the way we want it to.
Yeah, like, you would know who the killer was, or killers, or whatever. All right, now into our second positive, which is the kills in this movie. Now, yes, Scream won't be as gory or bloody as Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, and the Chucky movies, but believe me when I say the kills in this movie were amped to the max. Mm-hmm. We said in our Scream ranking video that Scream 4 was the goriest and bloodiest. Nah, son, this one takes it up way the fuck over.
This movie, oh my god, it's gory, but it's also the reason the kills are so good is because how intense they are. Oh my god.
Yeah, there's a scene where you have a female character Mindy's girlfriend trying to climb a ladder from window to window. And then you see the impact of the fall when Ghostface makes her fall off. And I remember the whole theater went, oh, crap. Or, they said the S word. I'm trying my best not to cuss because I got kids that watch this podcast too. So excuse some of my French moments. Yeah. And even the practical effects were pretty good in this. I mean, yeah, some CGI, but honestly, the kills were fantastic. I love them.
Yeah.
And, it's just stabby stab, but there's a scene in this movie where it's been spoiled. I know it's been spoiled in some set photos and in the trailer that Ghostface uses a shotgun. He uses it in the bodega scene, and I will tell you, the bodega scene is probably the most intense scene in this movie.
Oh my god, yes. Other than the ending, it's probably the one of the most intense.
Yeah, this man just said, F a knife, I'm using a shotgun. Can you blame him after fucking 6 movies? You're gonna change your tactics up a bit. Yeah, kills, most brutal and most glorious, and they were perfect.
Yep.
All right, moving on to our third positive, Mason Gooding as Chad. Now, I see a lot of people criticize Chad in Scream 5 because he was just kind of like a stereotypical jock. I mean, I kind of see some arguments, but I still loved him. And no, not because he's Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son, but he's an up-and-coming riser, kind of like Jonathan Majors. But I think Mason Gooding is going to be one of those actors that slips under the radar, and he's going to get that one big-ass movie. He's going to be a beast. But anyway, back to his character as Chad. He is the most badass in this movie. This man was fighting off, I want to say 3 killers almost at once. He was nah, son. He was giving him the dukes.
Yeah. If you like Chad in Scream 5, you're going to basically fall in love with him with Scream 6.
And he gets with Tara, which a lot of people theorized. I didn't know just because, like I said, me and Izzy literally do not read any review or watch any trailer or anything like that for this movie. So, but, I'm not even mad about it. It fits perfectly.
Yeah.
But there's a scene in this movie, Izzy, describe it. The scene about Chad.
Oh my god. When we thought that Chad had died, the look on your face was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was so heartbroken just because in the original Scream 2, their uncle, Randy Meeks, gets brutally murdered in a news van. And I remember I kept telling Izzy, one of the twins is going to die, and it's going to suck. It's going to suck, or maybe both are going to die to continue on the Meeks dying in the sequel. Mm-hmm. So I was worried, and then Mindy was okay. But then when it came to Chad, I looked at Izzy, and Izzy felt so bad for me. Izzy wanted to hug me.
I did. You look so sad. But
yeah, and Chad was the heart of this film. He was the glue that held everyone together. And in a way, he was kind of like our dear Deputy Dewey, played by David Arquette.
Yes.
I love you, man. But also he was kind of original too.
Yeah. He's basically gonna be like the new Dewey. He can never die.
Yeah, this fool's gonna get stabbed and you're gonna be like, oh no, he's gonna live. But this one I really thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for our third positive, the writing for Sam, Tara, and Mindy was a lot better compared to Scream 5.
Yeah. I think a lot of their characters were very more fleshed out, especially with Tara and Sam. I think we got to know a lot more about them in this film and where they stood, especially after what happened in Scream 5.
And I'm glad that a lot of them are still feeling the effects from the events of Scream 5, that they're just not forgetting about it, because that'd be a little unbelievable and stuff. But there was a scene where we thought Mindy died, and Izzy looked so sad. She looked at me, she went, no! Because me and Izzy had a debate, because she likes Mindy Meeks, I like Chad Meeks, and we made a little debate and bet, saying, oh no, watch, Mindy's gonna die, and she was like, no, Chad's gonna die. But let's just say our hearts got broken for a little bit, we were sad.
Especially when we thought both of them died.
Yeah, but the character of Sam Carpenter, she was in Scream 5. I can care less about her character, but in this one, she was a lot better. It just helps when her character is a little bit more fleshed out, like what Izzy said.
Yeah.
And especially with Tara, she's being played by Jenna Ortega. She's going to bring a lot more to this movie.
Yeah. And then with Mindy's character, Mindy's Mindy. She just played off the Meeks character so well in this movie, explaining all the movie stuff.
Yeah, her rules scene in this movie was funny. How she's basically saying, "Oh yeah, no, this we're in a franchise now, so any of us can die," which is funny. But then it's like, oh crap, that's true. That the legacy characters like Sydney, Gale, and anyone else before Scream 5 and 6, everyone's expendable. So it's nice to know that they have those stakes.
Yeah.
But there is a negative, which we'll talk about later on. So yeah.
And make sure you stay for the post-credit scene.
Yeah, we're gonna say stay for the post-credit scene. It is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and moving on to our fifth positive, the red herring in this movie was Sam's boyfriend Danny. Now, I know they aren't going to repeat the same old thing, the boyfriend is a killer, but at one point, I really thought Danny was a killer.
Yeah, he was just such a new character, and then also the red herring with Kirby was, like, at some point in the movie when the first cop said she could have been off the scale, I legitimately thought, hey, it might be Kirby because we haven't seen her in so many years. We didn't know how this all affected her character.
Yeah, and with the Ghostface shrine and like all the evidence and stuff, I was like, there's no way they're going to make Kirby a killer. But it looked like, I honestly thought Kirby was going to be a killer, and I would have been heartbroken as hell.
I would be too.
Yeah. So yeah, they did, I would say, an okay job with two of those red herrings. But in our negatives, we're going to get to, like, there's one character, of course, who was obvious as hell.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And moving on to our sixth positive, the chase scenes were intense as hell. For a while, Scream 2 had the best chase scenes, most notably Gale and Ghostface in the hallway. But this movie takes it up a notch. Like, Ghostface, the main Ghostface killer, the mastermind, was literally bodying people out in public and out in the open.
Yeah, he was, especially when they were in the corner store. That was crazy. And then we have the hotel, or not the hotel room, but the apartment scenes. Oh my god.
Yeah, like the main Ghostface did not give a crap. Like, he was gonna get his way one way or another, even if it means just killing random people. And so every chase scene in this movie, I honestly felt like someone was gonna die. I'm not gonna say if they died or not, and I know we're spoiling some stuff, but we're not spoiling everything.
Yeah.
Because there are some surprises we want you guys to know. Just like that post-credit scene. That's going to be a game changer. I'm not going to say. So it was nice to have the return of chase scenes being intense and just overall. Because I know in Scream 5, they were kind of limited because of COVID. They were filming because of the pandemic. So it felt very claustrophobic. But they really used New York to its full extent.
Yeah, they did. Especially whenever the Ghostface killers actually locked everybody up into this one area. Oh my god. Yeah. You had no clue where all the doorways were. And it got crazy for one moment with people climbing everywhere and falling. Oof, you just gotta watch it though.
Yeah. Alright, and now on to our seventh positive. This core group was a lot smarter than the one in Scream 2. Now, in Scream 2, our core group, or core 4, as a joke they say in this movie, was Randy, Sydney, Gale, and Dewey. I love all four, but in Scream 2, they made a lot of dumb choices, like Gale and Dewey leaving Randy out by himself to get murdered when they all should have stayed in the group.
Yeah, and with them still joining sororities and not keeping the self, it just felt like them going on with their daily life, like what happened in the first Scream movie didn't happen.
Yeah. You know, they talked about it, but in this movie, in Scream 6, oh, no, even Chad, Mindy, Tara, and Sam were telling their new friends, even Sam's boyfriend, like, you need to F off, like, get away. And honestly, people might think that's mean, but hell nah. If you're being targeted by a killer, and any one of them could have been a killer, but they went through some shit together. So I don't blame them for being cautious at all. They're even being a little cautious towards Kirby and Detective Bailey.
Yeah, by them doing this, I think it made the movie so much more realistic, because this is what a logical person would think, is to trust nobody.
Yeah, like in these Scream movies, I'm gonna let y'all know, do not trust anybody. Like, even the ones you know for a while, just do not trust.
Nope.
Even if you love them, do not trust. All right, and then for our eighth positive, callbacks to all the previous killers. Now, there's a scene in this movie where it shows every ghost face, not their bodies, of course, but their robes, their mask, their weapons, everything. And then there's a scene in the movie where Detective Bailey is talking with Kirby, who's an FBI agent now, going over all the killers in the past and how the killer or killers in this movie was using their old costumes, masks, and weapons. I liked it because not a lot of people talk about Mickey or Roman, who I think are very underrated killers.
Yeah, I thought it really brought a full circle from this new generation of movies to the old movies. It was just a really good callback with everything.
Yeah, and it wasn't really, and at first I thought it'd be like just for fan service or nostalgic reasons, but they do it in a way where it feels like part of the story, so it didn't feel cheap or like a cop out or anything.
No, not at all.
All right, and now for our last positive, and this is the big elephant in the big elephant in the room. Sorry, folks. Did this movie do good without Neve Campbell as Sydney? And yes, that's one of our positive. Sydney does get a mention, but it's realistic. It's realistic because Sydney has her family now, and she's married to Detective Mark Kincaid, played by Patrick Dempsey, who was in Scream 3. And so it makes sense that she would want to go into hiding with him and their kids.
Yeah. I mean, and even after that mention, it would make sense why she would go into hiding. And thinking about it now, there was really no place for Sydney in this movie.
Yeah, like, and this movie proves that you can have Scream movies without Sydney. And I'll always love Sydney Prescott. I'll always love that character. I'll always love Neve Campbell. But you got to move on from legacy characters, regardless if they get their happy endings or if they die.
Yeah.
And Gail mentions it in the movie that Sydney deserves her happy ending. Now, would I want her to come back in Scream 7? Possibly, but with the way they kind of set her up, I think I'd be fine if she never came back. But the real reason why Sydney wasn't in this is because of pay disputes between Neve Campbell and Radio Silence, which I'm going to say it, Neve Campbell deserves a big pay.
Yeah,
she started this franchise, and it needs to end with her.
Mm-hmm. She's carried this franchise for years. She deserves what she's paid.
Yeah, but like I said, if she's done in Scream 7, I'm not going to trip about it.
Yeah.
All right, now, for the first time in our film review, we're going to talk about mixed feelings. Now, for our mixed feelings, we don't exactly hate it, but we don't really love it either.
Yeah.
All right.
In the middle.
Yeah, okay. So, for our first mixed feeling, Kirby Reed. Now, I know we said in our Scream franchise ranking that we love Kirby in Scream 4, but Kirby was a little bit underutilized in this movie. I mean, yeah, she was a good red herring, but they kind of hyped up the return of Kirby as the new Sydney.
Yeah. Having Kirby in this movie it felt kind of just as like a cop out to have her character in this movie. It didn't feel like she needed to be there, like there was a reason. It was just bringing a
fan favorite.
Yeah,
a fan favorite basically. Because Kirby was supposed to be in the original Scream 5 that Wes Craven was going to direct, but that movie never got made because of Wes Craven's passing. Rest in peace, my man. But yeah, like, I'm a little mixed on Kirby. I mean, to me, it kind of feels like she was there to be a red herring, which isn't bad. But for the character of Kirby, it's like, I think she deserves a spotlight for at least one movie.
Yeah, but I did think for the parts that she was in, we did get a lot of Kirby back, especially with the scene between her and Mindy talking about horror movies. That was such a great scene.
Yeah, because Kirby is still a horror nerd at heart, and just like Mindy, like her Uncle Randy, they were talking about horror movies, and it sucks because I would have loved it if Kirby could have met the character of Randy Meeks.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. But anyways, and then with our last and second mixed feeling, the killer's motive. Now, there are 3 killers in this movie. The first time in a franchise. This is the only prediction I got right. Izzy thought it'd be 2 killers. I felt like there'd be 3 just because it's New York City and it's way too big and way too fun for it to be 1 or 2 killers.
Yeah. The killer's motives was very similar to Scream 2, where it was family oriented.
Yeah, so what she means by that, so in Scream 2, like we said in our Scream franchise ranking video, that Billy's mom, Debbie Loomis, her motive was revenge for the death of Billy Loomis, her son. And then that was basically their motive in this movie, the 3 killers, Detective Bailey, Quinn, and Ethan, because they were family with Richie. So Richie was Detective Bailey's son, and he was the brother of Quinn and Ethan. So in a way, I mean, it's kind of bad enough that they're in college. Like, I figure that they'd be in college, but I'm a little mixed on the killer's motive. Like, it makes sense. It's not exactly a hard carbon copy, but I would have loved a little bit of originality with the killer, with all three killers' motives.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that the whole family was on with the kills, but it is a little odd.
Yeah, but I will say, I do like how this family was coordinated as hell. Because they knew that Chad was their biggest threat, because Chad was giving all three Ghostfaces the work. Like, he was boxing all of them. And so they coordinated just to stab him. And I thought this man was dead, but just like Dewey, this man has 9 lives.
He lived.
All right, so we're done with our mixed feelings. And now, as much as I love this movie, as much as Izzy loves it too, there were some negatives we have to get out of the way. And our first negative, this movie dragged on a little bit and could have been trimmed.
Yeah.
Just like with Scream 2, it didn't really need to be 2 hours, but this one was the longest. I think it was 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Yeah.
But the killer's monologue, with all three of them, you could have trimmed that out easily. You didn't need to have it dragged on and on and on. And there were some scenes to where I don't know exactly, Izzy, you want to explain, like, some scenes are a little bit dragged on a little bit?
Like, I would say, as much as I love the beginning, it just seemed a little long, and then with the therapist scenes, it just didn't seem like it needed to be there.
Yeah, because they kind of set up, because Sam's in therapy due to, like, people accusing her of being the killer in Scream 5, like, saying that she was the real killer and framed Richie and Amber in Scream 5. And so they kind of set up the therapist as like a big story, but it really goes nowhere. Granted, his death scene is brutal as hell, and I like it, but I don't think you needed that many therapy scenes. And then the scenes at the police station could have been trimmed up a little more.
Yeah.
And then with them trying to find the killer when they're calling him out in the open, you could have easily trimmed out this movie. Most notably, the killer's dialogue and a little bit of the third act.
Yeah.
All right, and now to our second negative. We loved Tara, but her character in the beginning was a little bit annoying. And I get it. It's a typical young college girl that wants to have fun and wants to move on with her life. But she was annoying. It's like, you guys literally went through a massacre and you almost died. So you can't blame Sam, your older sister, for wanting to protect you.
Yeah, she was just a little bit annoying because she wanted to try to have some freedom after this tragic event she just went through, and all her sister wanted to do was protect her. So
yeah, and then it sucks because she literally wants to forget what happened, but with something like that, you can't forget. And I was scared that Tara was going to act like the events of Scream 5 never happened. But then as the film goes on, she does get better a little bit, but that's still a negative. Because I wanted Tara to be the strong character to where she remembers what happens, but she's trying her best, just like Sam, to move on. So I would have liked if she went to therapy with Sam in some scenes.
Yeah.
All right. And now to our third negative. The third act of this movie was underwhelming and bland. Now, I know we said the last chase scenes in the third act of Scream 6, they were good. They were intense. But it kind of goes back to what we said about it could have been trimmed up a little. Most notably, the ending. The ending has the main Ghostface, Detective Bailey, being haunted, or not being haunted, but she's being toyed with by Sam, who's wearing her Billy Loomis's old robes and mask, and basically acting like a killer. And I get it, Detective Bailey was trying to kill him throughout the movie, but to me, I didn't like that whole idea. I thought it was pretty dumb, in my opinion.
It was kind of odd because by them doing this, it makes them setting up for Sam to be the next killer, which, in my opinion, isn't the best taste for the franchise.
Yeah, and then there were scenes to where there's a scene where Sam was holding on to Tara so she wouldn't fall to Ethan's Ghostface character, so she wouldn't be stabbed to death. But then we get Quinn, who's upstairs toying with Sam. And to me, it's like, realistically, they both would have rushed Sam and Tara and killed them right there.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's kind of bland and underwhelming. And it felt realistic. And that's where we talked about where it was moving a little slowly. It's like, come on, dude, you guys can easily shoot Sam and Tara or just stab them. You can stop them easily.
Yep.
But of course, main plot armor. So yeah, Act 3, it's a little underwhelming and bland, despite us loving the intense chase scenes it has.
Yeah.
And then for our big ass negative, and me and Izzy had a hunch, or I did, I kept talking to Izzy about it, the character of Gale Weathers.
Oh,
now,
boy.
Even though me and Izzy did not see a trailer or anything for this movie, they were hyping up Gale to be the new female lead, just like Sidney Prescott.
Yeah.
But it seemed like she only had 2 minutes of screen time in this movie.
Yeah, her screen time was very limited, and I think the screen time she had didn't feel like it needed to be in there at all, because with her character, she just went back to being I don't know how to say it.
She was being crappy.
Yeah, crappy.
And it sucks because when you see Gale throughout this whole franchise, she starts becoming less cold-hearted and warm-hearted, most notably in Scream 5. After the death of Dewey, at the end of Scream 5, she says, I'm not writing a book about these killers. They could die in amnesty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write a book about Dewey. But then it pisses me off that Gale goes back to being who she was in the beginning. And I get it. That's how Gale is. But for this many movies and years and for that character, it just seems like she still hasn't learned her lesson. But my biggest issue is he's a little mixed on it. I think Gale should have died in this. I think she should have died.
I think she should have died too, in my opinion.
Izzy mentioned it to me on the drive home. She says she respects Scream 5 a little bit more just because he had the balls to kill Dewey.
Yeah. And when you first watch her scene, you think that she's dead until the paramedics come in and say that she has a low pulse. And then it's like, oh, okay, she's not dead.
Yeah, and what's crazy is she does get effed up in this movie. She gets stabbed almost near the heart, in the stomach, and in the side. And to me, and I'm not saying every legacy character in any franchise needs to die, but for Gale, I don't see where you can take your character. If she's always going to be that same reporter, she needs to die, in my opinion. Not like Sidney Prescott, to me, Sidney Prescott deserves a happy ending. I don't think she should ever be killed off, because she has her family and she's married. She's happy. She's moved on.
Yeah, I felt like her story ended with Dewey dying. There's nowhere else to take her story.
Yeah, you can literally add to that, trim up this movie a bit. You didn't really need Gale in this movie. If having Sidney in this movie didn't really make a difference, then I think having Courtney Cox not be in this movie wouldn't have made a difference at all either.
Yeah, especially if she wasn't even one of the main characters either.
Yeah, and he hyped her up to be. And what's funny is that I told Izzy, because I follow Courtney Cox on Instagram, she was promoting the movie a lot when they were filming, but then when they were done, even towards the weeks coming of this movie, she wasn't really talking about it. And I told Izzy, I'm like, that's a little weird. And I'm like, she's either gonna die or she's barely in this movie.
Yeah.
So I think Gale is my biggest negative. Izzy, would Gale be your biggest negative?
Yeah, that would be my biggest negative.
Yep. So that is our film review of Scream 6.
Yep.
Now, for our new ranking of the Scream franchise, for me, it's going to go 1, 6, 5, 2, 3, and 4. Now, Izzy, what would be your personal?
Now, for me, mine would be 1, 5, 6, 2, 3, and 4.
Is it because Scream 5 had the balls to kill David Arquette?
Yes. Yeah, that's my exact reason. At least they had a balls to do it. This one was just no. And I'm to me, it makes no sense to keep her character alive, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Put in the comments what your arguments are of why she should live.
Yeah, tell us what you thought of this movie. We want to hear everyone's opinions. And like I told you guys, doing that Scream franchise ranking and doing a Scream 6 review, we did the Scream 6 review live. We did not rehearse this at all. You're hearing the raw, honest love I have for this franchise. And I'm always going to appreciate Scream getting me into the horror franchise and making me into the fan I am today. And this movie can go on forever, and you best believe I will be there day one to watch this opening day.
Hell yeah, this franchise has been amazing to see it blossom into this amazing franchise, and I cannot wait to see the 7th movie.
Yeah, and the 7th movie we're going to talk about a little bit. In this movie, they kind of teased a cult out there, like a cult of Ghostface, kind of like in real life, the cult of, I don't know, the killer, I think his name is Charlie, something, I think people are going to know who I'm talking about, but there are cults to where they worship a real life serial killer and try to copy him. And that was the original plan for Scream 3 before Columbine happened.
Yeah.
And so, there's no way that they're going to mention like an online cult and not do anything about it.
Yeah. I think the cult storyline is where this movie is going to take its next plot line.
Yeah, and will Stu Macher be back? I don't know. This movie likes to say he's dead, but then it likes to say he's not. We're not going to say how they say he's dead or how they say he lives. You're just going to have to watch those. We make sure to leave out the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's going to conclude this podcast episode. Thank you guys for sharing this journey with us, for sharing our love for Scream with us. And for any of my subscribers that has never watched the Scream movie, please watch this franchise. I'm telling you right now, it is the most consistent horror franchise you will ever see. And thank you, Wes Craven. I hope you're kicking ass in heaven. Just thank you from my child heart for giving me a horror franchise I'll always love and introduce me and Izzy's future kids to.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you guys so much for supporting us. And go watch our last episode for a special announcement.
Yep, we're at 61 subscribers. And like I said, once we hit 100 subs, we're doing that special giveaway to give back our love to you guys.
Uh-huh.
All right. And as always, take care of others. Take care of yourselves. Me and Izzy love you all. And we will see you on the next Ivy Podcast episode. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, guys.